Good morning, dear respected Thai teacher, dear brothers, sisters, and friends. As I walk to the meditation hall, I saw many of our friends sit around by the lotus pond. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the lotus leaf, the lotus buds. And it looks so beautiful. It's like you are sitting on the lotus flowers already. I got that image, it's so beautiful. So we'd like to invite everybody to come back to our breathing. And those who sat by the lotus pond, please continue to embrace that image or that sense of peace in your heart, and just come back and enjoy our in-breath and out-breath, the present moment. So many wonders around us, and we would like to be available for them. With 3 sounds of the bell, and Sister Nghiem is our bell master today. Thank you. Dear Sangha, we are in the Rate Togetherness Meditation Hall of Blue Cliff Monastery. At this very moment, on the day of July the 10th, the year 2022, the brothers and the sisters of Blue Cliff Monastery are very happy to have a very big group of our friends come in over the weekend, stay and practice with us so joyfully. We have Cecilia, she brought her toddler, her son here, and he is about 3-4 years old, running around the temples, play with the brothers, play with the sister, eat ice cream. And it's just wonderful to hear the laughter of children. And soon we will have some retreat, family retreat, and we invite you to come back, and you see there's many more children and teenager and the adults. It's going to be a very happy retreat coming, family coming together. Dear friends, we come to a practice center here in the Blue Cliff Monastery. We don't actually do much, right? Let's see, we do a lot of walking from our room to the meditation hall, back to our room to the dining hall, and then back to our room, and then around the forest, around the meditation trails. And then we listen to Thai's Dharma Talk, to the sharing of the monastic brother and sister about mindfulness. And then we sleep, and then we wake up again, and we go for sitting meditation, exercise, and then back to our room and back to the dining hall. Very simple. And that's what we want to do here. We want everybody to do less, but mindful. We would like to have everybody together and generate a collective energy of mindfulness, of peace. And we want to give each other a lot of space and time to come back to ourselves. With the practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful eating, noble silence, sitting meditation, walking meditation, all what we do here is to get in touch with the energy of mindfulness in us. We want to generate that beautiful energy. Because mindfulness helps us to come back to ourselves, to calm our mental formations, to calm our body and mind, bring our mind back to our body so that our whole being present at the present moment. Because we believe that just only in the present moment we can calm ourselves, we can recognize what's going on inside and outside of us. We can nourish our joy and happiness at the present moment, recognize our painful feelings, our mental formation, and then it helps us to restore our energy, restore our communication, restore our well-being. And to be able to do that, we have these practices that are very adaptable and easy to practice. Because we practice with the whole community, we have that support. Everybody come in here with the purpose to practice, to get in touch with that emptiness energy, with that mindfulness energy inside of us, with that sense of peace. We need that more than ever. We really need that because there's so many things going on in our environment, in our society, that we want just to come together to sit, to breathe, to walk with each other. So that we can support each other on this path of practice, on this path of meditation. As a meditator, the Buddha and our teacher have taught us that besides doing all these mindful action, mindful speaking, mindful thinking, our karmas, there's like a very deep essential purpose of doing all this, of doing meditation. Why we are doing all this? Why we have to walk slow? Why we have to eat slower? Chew many times? Why we have to come back to our breathing and just focus into our breath? Why we doing all this? Why we have to keep noble silence? Some people consider noble silence or the practice is like green light and red light. Stop, and then resume, and suddenly you hear the bell and you stop, and then you resume what you're doing. Green light and red light. Sometimes we got caught in traffic and we felt very frustrated with the red light. So what we do in all this, why we have all these bell, sound of the bell, and then we practice stopping and breathing. There's a deep essential purpose behind that. behind what we're doing here is to give us an opportunity to get in touch with the reality of all things. The reality, things in themselves, true nature of reality. Our true self. And it's always available. I am very happy to receive this teaching from the Buddha and our teacher. Our teacher taught us a lot of teachings based on the manifestation only school, Buddhist teaching. And based on the teaching of manifestation only school, the reality, we can get in touch with the reality of the true self or things in itself by the practice of mindfulness. And also through our 5 sense organs, the eye, the nose, the tongue, ear, and body. Those are our 5 senses. And when our 5 senses get in touch with the objects, and then it will come to sense consciousness. And that very moment of contacting between our senses and the objects of our senses, there's a moment that is just so pure, so clear, authentic, unique, particular. Right at that moment, we can achieve or we can get in touch with the reality of things in themselves. For example, when my eyes get in touch with the orchid, and then in that instant moment that my eye see the flowers, the orchid, and I just maintain in that present moment, lucid, calm, clear, then that's the nature or the reality of what's going on between my eyes and the orchid flowers. Without any ideas, without any names, it's just that moment of getting in contact with the orchid. And it's so quick. And it just disappears right away, very quickly, because of our mind interference. So again, our 5 senses get in touch with the objects of the 5 senses. And we can maintain in that lucidity, meditative, peaceful, without any ideas, notions, discrimination, analyzing, without anything. At that moment, we can get in touch with the reality of all things. And then usually we don't maintain that ability for so long. And then the reality would become distorted by the interference of our mind. Our mind consciousness would kick in and then give it a name, give everything names and ideas. There's come with the name of orchid. Flowers, white. My eyes, the light, people around. All of these conventional designation appears. All these names and notions appears, and then the reality of things disappears. And then we are not in the realms of thing in itself anymore, but it's in the stage called representation. These are the objects or the fields of our perceptions. We live in the world of perceptions. Our perceptions, the way we see things, the way we perceive things, really affect us a lot, give rise to happiness or suffering. And in modern psychology, they call it subject and object. And in manifestations only school of Buddhism, they call it the perceiver and the perceived. Because perception is the ground of perceiver and the perceived. My eyes as the perceiver, and then the orchid as the perceived. And then when the contact between our eyes and the orchid happening, come perceptions. And perception is one of the 5 aggregates that make a human being. We are composed by the 5 aggregates: form, feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. And we are looking into the realms of perceptions. And we already went through the first one, field of perception, which is things in itself, or the reality of all things. And then the second one is representation. Representation is like we want to understand the reality of what's going on, the reality of the orchid, the reality of that person that we are thinking of the reality of suffering around us or inside of ourselves. We want to understand this. We want to understand everything that our 5 senses receive from the stimulus outside. And the moment that we want to analyze, we want to name, we want to interpret them, the reality becomes distorted. Because it's not reality anymore. Right? The orchid is right here, right? It's just right here. And then when I say orchid, I already used the name to describe it. It's not the orchid in itself, in its reality anymore. You follow me? The true nature of an orchid is right there. When I say orchid, I have to ask orchid to forgive me. I already use words, notions, names, conventional designation. And the reality of the orchid, based on what I am describing or naming, distorted, disappear. Still there, but in the realms of perception, in the realms of the field of representation, we kind of a little bit far away from the reality of the orchid. And because of the reality of an orchid is in itself, true nature, pure, lucid, with great understanding, great compassion contained in it. Why? Because in the representation world, with words, ideas, notions, we get caught in discrimination, of comparison, of duality. So when we are not in the realms of representation, then there's the reality without discrimination, without comparison, without duality. And in the realms of reality, there's sense of peace. We still have to use all this to describe just for the sake of communication. But reality, just reality, you don't say reality, there's peace, sense of happiness in there. We don't want to. But it's just for the communication here. Not in the word of representation. And if we can just sit still, just breathe, and just be one with our breath, be one with the air, walk, and then just walking. Really feel the touch of the sole of our feet and the ground, knowing very vividly, clearly what we are stepping on. The pebble, sand, grass, or the moss. And when we practice like that, we can get in touch with the reality at the present moment. We can restore our peace, our happiness and joy. Because if we're not mindful, when we breathe, but we don't know that we're breathing, when we walk, we don't know that we're walking, we occupy it up here in our mental formation, mental construction, mental discourse. We got non-stop radio talking here, non-stop radio station up here. Then we lose the present moment. We lose our opportunity to get in touch with the true nature, the reality, or things in themselves. So that's the purpose of all our practices here. To get in touch with our true nature. The moment that we get caught into our thinking, our planning, our projects, our regret about the past or the future, our imagination, our elaborated thoughts up here, we lose something. And we operated in the realms of representation. And this representation usually consider, our teacher says, wrong perception. It's not real anymore. Wrong perception, it's not real. It's just all words and notions and ideas. But we get caught into that world for so long, and we are still do that. There was one time, my elder sister, shared with many of us, a story, her love story. There was a man came to her and confessed that he was in love with her. And at that time, our sister, already a sister. And through their conversation, through their time interacting with each other, she also developed a sense of attachment, emotional attachment, physical attachment, spiritual attachment to this young man. We do talk about it. We do really talk about it in our community. And it was difficult for the sister, because this is the path she chose. And she's really in love with the path of monastic life, practice with the community on the path of liberation, freedom. She wants to cultivate her love and compassion, to transform herself and help others to transform despair, suffering into hope, into happiness and peace. So her aspirations really deep. But now she caught in a situation. And she cried. She was young in the practice at that time too. She didn't know how to get out of this. She was thinking about him. She was in confusion. Because she's human being also. She wants to love and she wants to be loved. And then one day, the boyfriend, the man, came to her and give her a photo, a picture that he drew of her. And then she took it home because the Sangha was around, so she kind of hid it. Yeah. She came back to her room and then she looked at her image that he drew. And she said it was so beautiful. She couldn't recognize herself. And then she contemplated more into her image. And then finally she found out that that image just totally worsened her. Totally worsened her. It's just from the own making of the man. He drew some wear of her image that totally not correct. just how he beautified, the photo. And then she got out of her situation, her difficulty. Worsened her. And she realized that even herself said that she loved, she had the sense of attachment with this young man. His image, his qualities. His gentleman. He's so kind, so intelligent, a good meditator. So she attached to all these. But tends to the contemplation of the image led her to realize more that she just been attached with her own making, image, ideas, notions about the man. Totally not him. It's not that his reality. Because all the image, notions, and ideas, qualities of him, not real. These are all names. Because he's himself at the present moment totally different with what she saw, what she experienced before. He, the man, is much more than just the image or idea that she got in her mind. And with the support of the community, with her own realization, that she dwelt in the representation field of perception, not in the thing in itself perception. So she practiced to bring mindfulness in to help her to come back, to be mindful, to be more lucid, not occupied by all these imagination, mental construction about her situation, about the object of her love. And then she can bring herself back to the present moment. And in the present moment, she can restore her understanding of knowing who really she is and who's the reality. Just goes beyond all of these realms of phenomena in the representation perception. And then she came back to her practice, cherish her path more, thanks to all the teachings, thanks to the energy, the collective energy of the community practice of meditation. Meditation means that stop running after all these in the presentation world. To be still and known. Get in touch with the reality of things. So she came back to the present moment, dwell in the community, still cherish her relationship, her respect to the man, and they became spiritual friends on the path. So the point here is at that really moment of awakening, realization, she was capable of identifying that she was in the representation mode or field of perception. With the light of mindfulness. She did practice a lot. Walking meditation, breathing mindfully, mindful eating, everything. But she put her mind really into the practice, really being mindful, so that she can restore herself back to her well-being, get out of her difficulties. There's another kind of perception called mere image. Mere image is when we when we dream, when we are in our dream, when we sleep and we, dream. And then in our dream, we see images. We see things. We feel things. And it's like a whole episode happening. Sometimes we wake up and we would find ourselves crying or laughing, smiling, or feel happy, or feel really tired, confused. Because when we in our dream, then the mind consciousness goes to our store consciousness and seek all the images that we received during the day or in the past images and experiences stored in our store consciousness. In modern psychology, they call subconsciousness. Everything in that subconsciousness or store consciousness. And in our dream, our mind consciousness go down there and pick an image or event that already passed, and then it just elaborated itself. And for example, during the day, I saw an elephant. And when I saw an elephant, it's just reality in itself for a moment. And then my mind consciousness kicks in, and then I start to, that's an elephant. Very huge tusk. And it's very calm, big elephant. I could sit on it and walk, play with it and all that, representation word elaborated. And then in my dream in the evening, I go to sleep, and then I would, dream. And then my mind consciousness go to my store consciousness. That, the image of the elephant already received and stored in our store consciousness. Pick up the image of an elephant. And then in my dream, I would play with an elephant, or I would ride an elephant, fight in a war, or carry the king, in the elephant's back, go to the palace, all of that in our dream. And that's mere image, perception, totally not real, right? Far from the reality, just all operated in our dream, mere image. And sometimes in our dream, sometimes it's a mere image of an elephant. Sometimes our mind consciousness, play some games, and then I would see the wings on an elephant flying. So I pick a little bit of images from this, add to that, and this become our dream. And it's all kind of images so distorted from the reality happening in our dream. So 3 fields of perception, things in itself, and the second, representation, the third, mere image. And we are reminded that when there's perception, there's deception. When we start to have an idea, or when we want to see, I think, I want, I imagine, I thought about to the past, to the future, we lose the reality of things. So we encourage to practice meditation, to stop running after all these perceptions. But just come back to really meditate, to be mindful, so that we can be more lucid, calm and peace. And in that sense of peace and lucidity and calmness, we develop compassion. And compassion born from understanding. In the state of clear awareness, we can really see the nature of all things, understand the source, the root of our suffering, so that we can practice, practice of knowing what to do and not to do, to bring more happiness and peace into our life, transform suffering into compassion, freedom. And all of these practices that we do in here together, so wonderful to help us to come back, to claim our freedom from perception. Namely, representation and mere image. We live in the world, we live in the time that meditation is no longer individual practice, but we practice as community, as a nation, as a planet. Because we want to support each other. We are meditators, and we want to introduce meditation to more and more people. So our suffering, our happiness has to do a lot with our perceptions, so being mindful of perception. Our teachers say that especially people who politicians, work in politics, politicians, you hold some kind of a role that everybody would get affected. You are carrying with you sense of power to come to decision making that would affect the whole planet, affect a lot of people. And that's why meditation is very needed. I have learned that some of the police department in America and even in Canada, they start their day with meditation. Police come together and they do sitting meditation before they carry out their duty. That's so wonderful. So that they can establish their sense of peace, lucidity, compassion. And I have a lot of hope and trust. I'm very thankful to them and all of our political party, political members working in our government. They're doing their best. And now they embody, they would like to bring mindfulness and meditation into their field of practice. So our teacher taught us that besides practice meditation, mindfulness, we should always ask ourselves, are you sure? Whatever we're thinking of, whatever we experience in the in our body, in ourselves and the world around us, we want to ask ourselves, are you sure? Am I sure? And now that we learn about the fields, the three fields of perception, we are aware of those, so we should also ask, am I sure? Are we sure? Because the reality, which contains a lot of, we still have to use this, peace and non-discrimination, non-duality, contain a lot of freedom, contain a lot of quality of life, peace and great wisdom, great love. Because just only in the word of representation and mere image, there's notion, there's discrimination, there's duality. There's happiness and suffering, there's good or bad, orange, yellow, all that in the representation world. But what we like to get close to reality, things in itself. So with our career, with our field of practice, see how we should always ask ourselves, what am I doing? You know, our teacher, he, when I was a novice in Plum Village, I have learned that Thang, our teacher, would go around. And with his mindful step and mindful breathing, mindful observing, very sharp and clear, sometimes he would approach one of us and he asked, my dear, what are you doing? Very scary. I got caught one time. He said that the good answer is that you look at me and you smile. And I know that you know what you are doing at the present moment. You don't lose the reality. And many of us got caught. When he asked, my dear, what are you doing? Oh, I'm cooking. Oh, I'm sweeping. And he would smile. Of course he knows. Of course he knows vividly in front of him what we were doing. So ask ourselves, what am I doing? Am I sure? Dear friends, let us come back and enjoy our breathing with one sound of the bell. Dear sister, we still have time, and I just want everybody to come back to our breathing and enjoy the present moment. There's one more thing I would like to share with the community of how I appreciate the path of the practice so much, how I love to live in the community with the Sangha. You know why? Because here I have a great opportunities to get to know many of our friends coming here. And it's also my practice of getting in touch with your reality. Every one of you come in here, I'm so grateful. And the first time I see you, that's very first time. It's sacred. Goes beyond notion, goes beyond all that. But feel really that you are in me and I am in you. Because when I look at you, you are the object of my perception. And my perception is in me. So when I look at you, I see that you are in me. There was one time I was sitting and eating breakfast with my brother, my elder brother, Brother Thang. And he was very kind. He made me a cup of coffee. And I sat next to him and we enjoyed our meal in silence. And then in front of me, my eye caught a young practitioner, a meditator. He was in the other table. And then it just, his stillness and peace that he practiced mindful eating or his meditation during eating, it just goes beyond the representation word. And I was so happy. No, I just was at that moment, but I just looked at him. For a moment, very free, feel free. And then soon, my consciousness, involved. And then he just like a Buddha. He just sat there and ate his breakfast slowly, mindfully. And even he moved, there's a sense of stillness in him. He's really young. And he come here just like you. And he practiced meditation. And it's really inspiring and rewarding to see this. How he practiced and how we together practicing together to generate peace. And he went to meditation retreat in Japanese temple, Japanese Zen center. And then he came back here, and this time he's gonna stay with us for 2 months. And we love to talk to him. There was one time after the working meditation, we sat together, break time, and then we just talk, and he shared with us about his meditation endeavor, and then it just reminded me a lot of me, myself, and others, how we remember our first time coming to meditation, first time approaching to the practice. And we had fun talking together, and he's here with us today. And he's going to his 3rd year in college, studying politics. And please welcome Cameron with me up here. So we will listen to him more about meditation. Please come up here. You can sit. You can bring another chair. Hello, Cameron. Yeah. Thank you for coming up here to chat with us. Well, as I share with the audience, with our friends about Cameron, based on mine, but probably we will like to invite you to say hi and introduce yourself a little bit to the Sangha.
Well, hi, my name is Nghiem. It's so great to see all of you people. There's so many people here this weekend, so it's good to see everyone. I am in my second year of college, and I'm here. I just wrote a letter to the Sangha to stay here until the end of September when my third year starts. And yeah, so I started practicing, like you mentioned, at a Japanese temple last summer. I went for 2 weeks, and I was listening to your talk, and all of the words that you were saying just sort of like made sense to me. They were like, oh, that's my practice right there. Because so I came into politics, and it seems like there's mindfulness in politics, and it seems hard to mix the two, at least in my mind. So I came into politics because I had this idea that I wanted to change the world, and I think a lot of people have that idea of wanting to make an impact. And I still hold that, I do want to change the world, but I think that one of the places that I was coming from in wanting to do that was sort of wrong perception, and sort of a perception of suffering that I had in doing that. So, I, in the past, had been hurt by a lot of people that said, oh, you're not doing enough good in the world, you're not, getting out there and, helping people. And through practice, I sort of noticed that the reason that I had gone into politics in the first place was because of this sort of wrong perception. And I hadn't even known that, going into college. Like, maybe I had a little bit, but it's very hard to notice. And I think, that is just one example for me of a wrong perception that I hadn't noticed and that had really, run my life. And, I think politics is really valuable. And I think I'm trying to bring more compassion to it because the wrong perception that I had had about politics before, which was to try to sort of recover my place in the eyes of the people that had hurt me before. That was sort of based in the self. I hadn't really seen the people that I would be helping in politics with my my degree and all that. So I think, the practice has been so valuable to me just to start to see different truths in my life and to try to really see the other people around me. I think that's what politics is about for me right now. So that's just the story of my practice, and I hope you all continue yours. I'm glad you're here. So thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. I have this. Okay.
That
The brother just went. So how do you envision, how do you see the role of meditation in politics, in environment change?
Yeah, big question, but I think, just how I was talking, I think it's very easy to have a lot of wrong perceptions when you're thinking about politics, just because so much of the political issues are so emotionally charged in a very heavy way. If I say words regarding politics and different headlines and whatever, if I say Ukraine or Donald Trump, abortion, all of these things, they're very heavy words that I think encourage very emotional thinking. And I think to see things compassionately, I think it's important to bring mindfulness to those words and just politics in general. Yeah, and I'm also new to the practice, so I'm still exploring this, but that's how I see something so far, yeah.
And going back to school, to base in Maine or to the UK next year, how you going to practice, how you maintain your practice of meditation in school environment?
Sure. I mean, it has been hard. My friend Jack knows. He's coming from Bates as well. He's in my year.
Hello.
Hey, Jack. It's just so hard to maintain a practice. You know, I came back from the Japanese center back to Bates, and I maybe kept up my practice for another 2 weeks. And then, you know, I went off into my own world of college. So I think one thing that has been really helpful for me is like finding a center, you know, like a practice center, a sangha, because I think that helps me keep up my practice, just because it's so hard to keep at it alone, you know, and I come in, I have the energy of everyone here. Maybe I don't go to every 6 a.m. sitting, but, you know, it's very helpful to have everyone here and keeping me meditating. And that's what I started a meditation club at Bates, and it was helpful to have everyone sort of coming in and meditating with me, even if it was only once a week, you know, just to like keep some sort of meditation group there. Yeah.
Thank you, Cameron, for your aspiration, your study practice, and your peaceful presence here with us. And everybody, Cameron.
Thank you so much for the talk.
Thank you very
Thank you, everyone.
And we'd like to invite the Sangha to enjoy 3 sounds of the bell before we end. We would like to invite Brother Popcorn.
So, dear
CTC.
community,